Good evening and welcome to The People's Business. I'm Wendy Burke. Tonight's topic, the new road traffic investigation policy, a different response to accidents. To help us discuss tonight's topic, I have with me Mr. Randy Graham, the president of the General Insurance Association of Barbados, Inspector Rodney Inniss, the Police Communications and Public Affairs Officer, and Roland Lowe, the president of the Barbados Road Safety Association. Welcome to you, gentlemen. Welcome to you, our viewers, and we do hope that you stay with us for what promises to be quite an enlightening program on this new policy. The People's Business will be back after the break. Welcome back to the People's Business Live. And we're talking road traffic investigation policy, a different response to accidents. I'm going to begin first with Inspector Inniss on the issue of the policy. And I believe it is just that, a policy and not a total change or amendment to Barbados's road traffic laws.
Okay, Wendy, good night to you, good night to the panel, and certainly good night to Barbados and all road users. Yes, it is a change in policy. Um, Coming from the Office of the Commissioner of Police, the Barbados Police Service, let me give you a quick summary. We have looked over our data over the past 10 to 12 years, and we recognize as we recorded these accidents, ones that are reported, we have recorded 85,948 accidents at the end of 2023. Of these, 71% were damage only, non injury accidents, no one was injured. Slight injury, meaning sprain, laceration, 27% of those were slight injury. 1.5% were serious, and 0.23 of a percent were fatalities. Now we have over the years, it's always been our policy to attend accident to investigate for particular reasons to assist those who are injured, and obviously to deal with any offenses coming out of our investigation. And we've come to the point, Wendy, where we've decided that we are very overwhelmed. If you look at those numbers, you see we are doing 7,500 accidents every year. 7,500. And a big 71% are just damage only, what we will know as a fender bender. And that takes a lot of police time, a lot of man hours to do these investigations. And we believe that that time can be better spent dealing with more serious matters. And so the Office of the Commissioner of Police took a strategic decision in terms of going forward of a change amendment to the policy. And
Okay.
we, of course, want to sell it to the general public. We want to engage. We know that they're affected by it, all road users, and that's the reason what's being here, to talk and discuss so that we get it right going
Okay,
forward.
and one of the people who is readily on board with you is that of our local insurance companies. And Mr. Graham, in terms of GIAB and your buy-in, was it a no-brainer for you all? And how will it enhance how you're able to deliver to your clients who are involved in the various types of road accidents?
Thanks, Wendy, and good night to everyone and to the viewers. Initially, it was not a immediate acceptance from the insurance sector, as you could imagine, but in the context of what Inspector Inniss just raised, we have crime and major crime expanding in Barbados. We have a police force that's constrained in terms of the manpower resources and the manpower that they have. And for the country as a whole, for the greater good, we think it is better in the context to use the police resources against the serious crimes and find ways as a society, as a public, to carry on with other things and other civil matters that we can, leaving the police to deal with serious crimes. So when it came to that, and the police obviously done a lot of excellent analytical work on this, and we then agreed with their position of having them respond to the serious and major injury, and use the police resources in other areas of fighting crime, while the insurance companies and the insurance sector deal with the fender benders. Obviously, the public will have concerns about establishment of liability and paying of claims. The public should be rest assured that the insurance sector has gotten full training from the police force in accident scene, taking details of the accident scene. We are ready to respond as we have been doing for a long time, responding to accidents at the scene. Ms. Inniss made mention of 71% of those accidents being fender benders. From the insurance company standpoint, 90% of the claims are actually settled without a police report. It is that 10% where we have a dispute in liability that we tend to rely on the facts. And what the policy has sought to do in dealing with the resources of the police, the insurance is going to attempt to stop this by having trained personnel attend the accident scenes. And if we get the public support in exchanging information and giving factual information at the scene, I think as Barbadians we can all work together to see this policy is for the greater good and try to support it. And certainly that's why the insurance sector got behind the policy.
Okay, we're going to get back to that issue of factual information, etc., because we know a lot of things go a little awry with accidents and so on. You now, Mr. Lowe, and your association, are you giving this new policy your buy-in?
Hi, good night, Wendy, and good night to the panel, and good night to the listening public. What I would say is that I appreciate the police services position, but I believe that there's some situations that where this move could see the motoring public being disadvantaged when it comes to fault being allocated in some cases. And in regards to that, I would say that we are looking at when things, or we're thinking about the situation in relation to when things go right. But we have to consider also when things go wrong, how we deal with that situation.
Now, from you, Ms. Inspector Inniss, for a very, very long time in terms of our society, the policeman has always been the arbiter in these situations and being the one to help, determine it and maybe sometimes diffuse aggression at the scene of an accident. Without the law there, and we just have representatives from 2 insurance agencies, is the training that you all have put them through necessarily sufficient to be able to diffuse things that we know happen on the road? It might be a fender bender, but that fender might belong to a very expensive Mercedes.
Well, we have, as Randy has said, we started the education program with the members of the accident response personnel associated with the insurance industry. And let me say, what we are doing is nothing new in terms of the policy, yes. But certainly, when police officers are called up there are areas up there where people behave aggressive, where they have disputes, and we seek to quell that. Certainly, the response personnel, those persons who are responding, remember, they represent the owners and the drivers of the vehicles there. They're the insurance companies dealing with their clients. And therefore, there may be a dispute, but the long and short of the matter, once the facts are recorded by those and investigated, then it's up to the insurance company to come to a decision. And even if they don't, that's what the law courts are there for.
Okay.
Certainly, as it stands now, if a police officer out there investigating any type of accident, and we take the facts, um, the insurance companies are not duty bound to go by the police report. Yes, they may ask for it. Yes, the client will ask for a police report. But overall, they're not duty bound to do that. And it's not every accident that we will get arising an offense out of every accident that we attend. So we
Okay.
have to weigh the consequences and we have to get people being more responsible for their actions. We know that accidents don't just happen, they're caused by one or more factors. And we have trained and partnered the respond persons to do exactly what's required of them at scenes of such collisions.
And that's where I want Mr. Graham to come in here now on that whole issue of training and response. Have those insurance responders been trained specifically in accident scene investigation? How extensive has it been? Have you had to ramp up your numbers in terms of having responders to be able to adequately deal with the client base that most of the companies have?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, Wendy, I mean, we must give credit to the accident responders. Even before this policy was touted to come in place, the responding team have been going to accidents for years and building up their knowledge base and responding to accident scenes. I think when what we did in stepping this up is that the body of persons who work with the auto response actually went to the police training center and had training in much the same way the police would have gotten training in dealing with the accident scenes. And that happened and that occurred over a few days. I think they were in the system getting the training, but that training will be ongoing. The police have said that they will repeat that training to make sure that the team are kept abreast of how to deal with accident scenes. So it's not just the logistics and the speed and taking the reports. Now they now have understood how best to deal with accident scenes, getting the vehicles off of the road, stopping the blockage of traffic, what factual measurements, pictures, and so on that are necessary to determine if one driver has broken the road rules and caused the accident. Those are the factual details that the auto response team are now trained to take at the accident scene. So if we get the driving public to support this policy, understand that change is upon us, and we know it's going to be difficult to go about the change. But if they can support and do what we normally see them doing in accidents, pull the vehicle to the side of the road, exchange the information amicably, take the pictures at the scene, follow the auto rescue thing, personnel. We believe we're in a good place to give the policy, to make it efficient and effective.
Okay.
But although the team has gotten the training, we do need the public to support the policy.
And one of the agencies which can help you in getting that support would be Roland's. It's the Lowe's Road Safety Association. But you seem a little doubtful here in terms of whether or not this is going to be foolproof.
Well, again, I have heard what Mr. Inniss has said, and even Mr. Graham as well, but they're speaking in relation to situations where everything goes right. I've been involved in a few accidents myself, and I've also been a police officer attending accident scenes. It's not every accident that everyone behaves in a manner that will be cordial. And as you asked earlier, and I don't think Mr. Ennis answered it completely, are the insurance personnel trained in relation to diffusing disputes? Because the person might get out of their vehicle and immediately be in a hostile manner, behave in a hostile manner, and it may even be a threat of a fight. The insurance personnel there at the scene, is that person trained, or does that person have the ability and the power to stop a fight? I don't believe that in a situation that the insurance personnel there at the scene, the insurance responder would get in the middle of a fight to try to stop a fight at the scene. And that's one of the areas that I'm talking about. The police at this scene is there to represent. He represents the law and order, and he will be able to prevent and deter such incidents or such situations from occurring. And then, relative to what Mr. Graham said about taking measurements and being trained, 3 days or a couple of days of training relative to carrying out accident investigation does not equate to the training that a police officer gets relative to managing the scene, dealing with personalities and persons' behaviors at the scene of accident, and even the physical training needed to diffuse the situation that persons begin to fight. And these are
Okay.
realities; these are things that happen at accident scenes.
Well, we have to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to invite our callers, but we're also going to get into the issue of the actual insurance, because there are people, unfortunately, on our roads driving without insurance. So how do we deal with those issues at an accident scene? The People's Business will be back after the break. You can call us at 228-5562, 228-5563, and raise your questions, comments, or queries with these gentlemen. The People's Business will be right back. Straight to those phone lines. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Yes, go right ahead with your question or comment.
Yes, it's one arising from the point you made at the end. What happens when one or both parties are uninsured? And the second question is, I have heard in other jurisdictions of no-fault insurance. What exactly is that?
Okay, Randy, that's for you.
Sure. First of all, when there is obviously an issue of uninsured drivers on the road that we've been trying to tackle and reduce over the years, and we have not yet wrestled the issue down to the ground. So, irrespective of this policy, the challenge with an uninsured driver is that if an uninsured driver hits your vehicle, typically in the normal course of settling an insurance claim or a civil matter, the injured party or the injured vehicle will go against the other person to get the recovery. When the other person does not have insurance, there's no insurance company to repair your damaged vehicle. So you end up having to go against the driver through civil matters, through court, or otherwise to recover the funds. That's why, in wisdom, insurance, at least third party insurance, was made mandatory, so that if you do injure someone on the road or damage vehicle on the road, that your insurance policy can repair the injured party, right? So we need persons to be responsible, and notwithstanding the issues with costs and so on of the premiums, work with insurance companies to make sure that you have insurance cover on your vehicle if you're going to put it on the road. If you don't, you do expose yourself to significant liability, but you disadvantage Barbadians who have insurance on their car, and that
Okay.
is irrespective of the policy that we have right now, right? It
Okay,
doesn't make
can
a
you get
difference
to
if
his
it
second
was.
part quickly? Because we have another caller.
Sure. So the issue with the no fault is that, in states, in U.S. states, there's no such thing called no fault insurance, in that your insurance company repairs your vehicle irrespective of who caused the accident. So you have two vehicles involved in an accident. Vehicle A, their insurance company repairs. Vehicle B, their insurance company repairs. There's no establishment of liability. Whoever is insured by that company, the fault is not determined. That company just repairs your vehicle. We don't have that in the Eastern Caribbean, but that's how the no fault operates in the U.S. states.
Okay. Good evening, caller.
Good evening.
Good evening to you.
Good evening. My question is, in terms of the no fault, I know how it operates in the States. Is there any plan to make that a policy in Barbados where you have the no fault insurance?
So, Wendy, it's not something that the industry has yet contemplated. Reason being, there's a difference in the pricing No fault insurance costs are significantly higher than the way the establishment of policies and liability is done right now. If we did go to no fault cover, we would expect premiums to be impacted. So it's not something that the sector has contemplated, but I suppose it's something that we can take away if the public wants the companies to take a look at it.
Okay, another caller. Good evening.
Good evening. My question is, let's suppose, as I say, that you were driving, going on your journey, and somebody come up from behind you and struck your vehicle and run away. What say about that?
Okay, which is something we were talking about earlier, Inspector Inniss, when they leave the scene. How are we going to deal with it?
Well, that falls in one of the categories. Remember, we're here to sell this to the public, but we want to reassure the public that we are not leaving them high and dry. It's not to say that the police will not be involved at any stage of any of these accidents. What we are saying is that non-injury and slight injury accidents will be dealt with initially by the insurance industry. Now, in a case like that, what you'll probably call a hit and run, that's one of the categories that we are going to still investigate. Police will still investigate hit and run accidents. So if someone comes out and tails in you or damage your vehicle or your property and moves on without doing what is required by law, certainly we have a responsibility to investigate that particular matter. So you wouldn't feel aggrieved, but you would feel aggrieved, but certainly we will do what it takes to bring that offender to justice.
Okay. Now, I want to go into the categories that you will still respond to in a bit, but we'll take this other call first. Good evening.
Yes, hi, great evening, Wendy. How are you doing?
I'm great. Go right ahead with your question.
Glad to hear it. That's wonderful. Fantastic. Well, I have a couple of questions, please. Thanks for the production team for taking my call. Good night to Inspector Inniss.
Good night to you.
Yes, good night to you, sir. This question is for you. Now, in terms of the aspect of the cars being electric now rather than gas, and the fleet of vehicles being changed, the full everybody getting an electric car. Do you believe, as a part of your media campaign, that you should be doing more, encouraging more people to engage in defensive driving in terms of being in the state of condition of being prepared or required to defend against attack or crash from these electric cars now that they're electric and not gas? I have one more question when you're finished, please. Thank you.
Well, yes, the aspect of defensive driving have been cornerstone of all road safety advocates, especially those in the police service. We've been doing that for as long as I've been doing policing, over 32 years now. We've encouraged all police officers. That's what we do. What we do when we do road traffic law, we try to educate the public, for sure. So defensive driving, the principles of defensive driving don't change. You may adjust them a little because of the type of vehicle, but the principles remain the same right through. So yes, we've done that, and we will continue with that.
I want to get Roland to weigh in on this question before we go to our next caller.
Well, as Inspector Inniss said, the principles of defensive driving don't really change, and that's one of the areas that we agree on throughout the police and the insurance agency, as well as the Road Safety Association. We always advocate for defensive driving, paying due care and attention when you're on the road, planning your route and your destination before you leave, and also making sure that your vehicle is in good working order. All those things have a part to play relative to defensive driving and doing your part as a driver on the road.
Okay. Good evening to you, caller.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, go ahead with your question.
Yes, you think about it, this thing sounds very easy, like the insurance company is saying that you party with exchange the documents and whatever. But it is easy, they're saying, because sometimes you get into an accident, and a lot of the insurance companies are telling you, man, we're here from the other side, this had person report the accident, and all kind of things like that there. Sometimes you got a clear case that this person is wrong, and the insurance, everything is there, and they give you all kind of trouble. Instead of paying you the money and to carry you all around the world, you got to go and get attorneys and all kind of things. And in some cases, you even forget to pay, to worry about it, because the cost that the attorney is going to charge you to go into this matter for you might say, look, it doesn't make sense, or the kind of thing. So anyone you could call and reply to me.
I think this goes directly into Mr. Graham's lap.
No, I appreciate the caller's concern, right? It is the concern of the public. I mean, I know we are trying to support the policy, but like Roland has said several times on the show right tonight, it's not a world of perfection. The policy is not perfection. The caller highlighted the situation, and nobody disagrees, right? We do get situations where drivers give contradictory statements at the scene, and we have to investigate to determine what the facts are, right? Those things occur. I think the point that we are making is that what we're saying is that, look, insurance companies settle 7,000 motor accidents a year, right? So we're settling 600 a month, and we're trying to work through a number of accidents. 90% of those accidents are settled quickly. $85 million, 90% of those accidents all paid within a few weeks. But there are a body of accidents, 10% of the accidents that have to be investigated, and we have disputes. That's what we are trying to get the public to assist us with in limiting that, because for the greater good, we need the police at other scenes. And we are saying that if people give factual statements and behave cordially and exchange information at the scene, we can limit the issues that we have with contradictory statements. A claim is only really hindered when there's a contradictory statement. If we have everybody stating the facts and we are aligned, majority of the claims are settled in a quick matter without incident.
Okay, we have another caller. Good evening. Good evening to you. Okay, I guess that caller is not with us. No, I was asking you, Inspector Inniss, about the specific types of accidents that police would definitely be responding to, so the public who may not have heard of the areas of the policy before can be clear on them.
Okay. Well, from September 15th, we will be attending, as customary, sadly, we'll be attending all road traffic fatalities, all fatal accidents we will be attending. All serious accidents we will, in fact, be attending. Like the caller just said, hit and run accidents, pedestrian involved accidents and incidents, and those mass casualty traffic events, where you have 12 or more persons injured in one event, we will in fact respond to that. And lastly, with what the other caller said, situations where there's likely to be a breach of peace or acts of unsuspected or suspected criminality, we will still respond. So in a case like what the guy mentioned earlier, the caller mentioned earlier, where the two insurance representatives go to the scene and they're still being boisterous and they want to fight and whatnot, breaching the peace, police can still be summoned and we come and deal with that. We are not going to neglect and not deal with it. We're going to respond to that. All we are
Okay.
saying is that initially the insurance representative, once it falls in the realms of non-injury or slight injury, they will be the first to respond. If there are incidents happening arising that, sure, the police will come and assist where they have to.
All right, we'll take this call quickly before we go to break. Good evening, caller.
Hi, good evening, ma'am. What about when somebody give information, the wrong information, to get away from what's going on? When you run into the back of someone and then give the insurance the wrong information.
I believe we dealt with that 2 calls ago in terms of ensuring that factual information comes and that the police would still be investigating in the event that the person is found to be doing that which is fraudulent. Now, there's a sector I'm concerned about, just putting it out there, not blaming anybody for anything, but what about our ZRs? Not necessarily with a mass casualty situation, but in terms of the fender benders they may get into. We know they're always, overtaking, trying to get the passenger first, that type of thing. Have you all looked at this policy in depth, Mr. Graham, in terms of that particular sector?
Well, I think the policy was reviewed related to all road users. So public service vehicles were also included. Now, obviously, the issue with public service vehicles is that they're on the road for a lot of hours. They're a lot of them on the road. It's a competitive business that they're in, and their behaviors on the road that the public would like to stop. Right, we would like to see less aggressive driving and more following the road use generally. Right, so I think in that realm. The police, will step up there. I intend, I mean, Inspector Inniss will speak better to this, but they will use the resources to police the road, which would be to get the PSV vehicles to operate within the realm of the law. If the PSV vehicles operate within the realm of the law, I think we would all be sort of happier in terms of the road uses, but the policy itself doesn't impact. The accident scenes will still be dealt with in the same way, whether it's mass casualty or whether it's a fender bender. But I think the thing is that we'll give the police more resources now to deal with the road use for the PSVs, and free up resources to deal with the road use, and that's the part of that we support.
Okay, now we're going to have to throw to commercial break, and we have a caller on the line. We will deal with you as soon as we return on the People's Business. And we're back, the People's Business. We're looking at the new road traffic investigation policy, a different response to accidents. We have some calls backed up, so gentlemen, we're going to get straight to them. Good evening to you. Good evening to you. Go ahead with your question. Okay, both of them got a little tired of waiting. Now, I want to look directly at the accident responders, Randy. What happens in an instance where one company interprets it a particular way, the other in a different direction? When those two statements aren't aligning, who's the decider?
So if we take an example of an accident in brief, right? So an accident occurs at the scene. What we would like is for vehicles to pull off to the side of the road, not to block the traffic way. Call your insurance companies. The insurance companies auto response will attend the scene, and at that point, we will ask the drivers to give us statements of what they experienced during the accident, and what they see as the causation of the accident. The Road Traffic Act and the laws of Barbados for road use determine how a vehicle is to be used on the road to fall within the law, right? So, if you have a instance where you're supposed to stop at a major stop, you're supposed to check for that the road is clear before you come out, and you have a driver who comes to major stop, doesn't stop, come out, and he hits a vehicle. Now, if both drivers give contradictory statements at the scene, that's when the accident investigation attempts to recreate through measurements and photos, eyewitnesses, and eyewitnesses are very important in those circumstances, and try to corroborate what actually happened at the scene. The gathering of the evidence through the eyewitnesses, through the measurements, and through the photos, and through video dash cam or otherwise, is what will be used to determine whose statement is actually factual versus where the statement is contradictory in making the decision on the insurance claim. Unfortunately, Wendy, sometimes these things take longer than others to gather the facts, and that's what creates the frustration in the settlement of the insurance claim. But it starts with the Road Traffic Act, what is required under the act by the driver, and then trying to determine who did not follow the requirements and cause the accident.
Mr. Lowe is looking a
And
little quizzical. I want to have his take on it before we go to the caller.
yeah, Mr. Graham smiled and chuckled because he knows where I'm going with this. Because again, we are speaking when it's an idyllic situation, but I was involved. I want to say recently, but it's not recently because it's now starting to come to a settlement recently. But the accident occurred last year in October. And as you asked, what happens when the insurance companies interpret things differently? And that's one of the issues I have with this policy, the police not attending the accident scene. Because when the insurance companies interpret things differently, and then I want Mr. Green to expand on the issue, because I only learned about it through the same situation when the insurance companies decide to each his own. In my situation, I was dead right. As a police officer, I know and I knew that I was dead right, but the insurance company representing the other party was saying that I contributed to the accident in a really, I want to say, a whimsical and silly manner. But the police, that's what I'm saying, a police officer at the scene who offers an objective, informed, and trained opinion is crucial when it comes to these situations when there is a dispute as to who is right and who is wrong and how the insurance companies interpret it. And Mr. Graham made mention of the rules of the road, but the insurance company in my situation, it seems as if they had no idea of what the rules of the road were. So that's where the police officer at the scene is critical, and the police officer's report is critical.
Okay, we're going to come back to you just now, Inspector Inniss. Let me just take the caller quickly. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Go right ahead.
Yeah. My question is, my vehicle parked into my gap. This guy reversing hit my vehicle. I went to him and let him know he hit my vehicle and damaged it, and the guy still went along. I report the matter to both the police and the insurance. The insurance investigated, and then they were saying that that the car that hit my vehicle, it had a fictitious name, and the vehicle was sold. So therefore, it's the police duty to investigate it. I went back to the police, and this is over 3 years, and they haven't gotten a response. All like, no. Good. And then the other question is, the insurance always tell you not to accept responsibility for an accident. So that means that they're telling you to tell us from the beginning.
Okay. This is an open one.
I can come in here. Yes, caller. It's unfortunate what you experienced, but what should have really happened? You did the right thing. You contacted your insurance company, and you did call the police in the circumstances. If that vehicle was not registered, if it was fictitious, fraudulent, use a number plate, whatever offenses are there, you had a duty. That police officer should have recorded a statement from you of what occurred, and then start the investigation in terms of who the culprit could have been, who would have been the legitimate owner, and if the legitimate owner had insurance, and to investigate the matter and probably put the person before the courts. That's our role in respect of that. The offense is there. Obviously, the insurance role would be the civil part of compensation for you to your loss or your damage to your vehicle. That's something separate and distinct. That's civil. But the criminal side of it, if there were offenses based on what you said they would have been, the police should have followed that. You should have given a statement, and we would have continued our investigation and caused that person to be placed before the court for the offenses that he or she committed.
Okay.
Well,
We
I
have a
just want to
caller.
interject.
So,
I'll be back with you. Okay, go ahead,
When you-
gentlemen.
Right, I just
well, no,
want to
just
interject.
remember the corner mentioned. Sorry, Roland, you go, Roland.
Right, I just want to go ahead. I just want to say, but instead under the new policy, if you look at it as to what it says, that means that when that caller reported that particular incident, the police would have triaged according to your new policy and told that person that that's not a matter for the police to come to because it was a simple little accident. So then the
Right.
police would never have been in attendance of it, and then there would be no initial report or facts to follow upon. And that's where the issue,
But
that's one of the issues that comes up with this new policy.
but with the new policy, what would have happened? Yes, the incident, it can still happen now that we're doing that very same scenario could have happened like now. And I'm saying if it comes up and we are not the initial responders, we've known with our shareholders and partners with the insurance company, if that's part of the fact, then they can do like any other good citizen and they make the report to the police, give a statement, and the police have a duty to follow up with the investigation. So it's not a case of where we leave drivers and owners of vehicles out there on their own. What we're saying, what this policy seeks to address is that the initial response to minor and slight injury accidents will be the insurance companies. If there's a matter that arises where it's problematic, then the police can still be involved.
Okay.
It just takes a statement from that person and from the insurance company, and we follow through with that.
Mr. Graham, I want you to respond to the part where he says that the insurance company told him not to take liability.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say there, Randy. I mean, just for clarity and for full explanation for the public, the comment about not accepting liability to be seen is nothing to do with not giving a factual statement. The insurance companies want persons to give factual statements. What we are saying is that in an accident, sometimes people are, it's a very unearthing situation to be in. And what we are saying is that you have to just give your factual statement. You need not go to the extent of saying I was wrong or I was not wrong. That's not what happens at the scene. What happens at the scene is we're requiring you to give the factual statements of what happened in the accident as best as you can recall, and then based on those statements, liability was then be discussed and established. We don't want persons saying at the scene I was wrong or this body was wrong, because that's what sometimes creates the heated situations.
Or
just
saying,
factual statements.
I'll let my insurance company fix the tail light, don't worry about it. I haven't drawn down on my claims for the year.
Correct. So that's not that we don't want that
Wendy?
situation at the scene, and that's what we're trying to avoid.
Yes, tell me, Inspector Inniss.
Maybe can I address? I had it noted here. I wanted to address a few with Roland. Two questions that he asked earlier in terms of the training of the accident response personnel. Now we had a comprehensive, specific training program at the Regional Training Center for personnel right across from the different insurance industry. It was a 40-hour, 1 week theory and practical in terms of measurements and on-scene management of accident scenes. Now that we saw was appropriate initially because remember, these are just minor fender benders and slight injury accidents they're going to. The more comprehensive measurements that we would take as police officers are for the fatalities and the really serious ones. And even then, there's still ongoing relationship where we will continue to keep them trained up because there will be more persons coming on board, and we have agreed to continue to keep them trained up so that it's better for the general public, the insurance industry, and of course, the police officers. The second part of that, the dispute resolution at scenes. You will get disputes at scenes whether or not police respond initially. This new policy does not say that all will be perfect. What it does say is that should those responders go to scenes and people for some reason or not cannot get along and they get agitated, again, the police are there that we will come and sort that situation out. But we cannot, at this point in time, we are overwhelmed and we cannot attend 7,500 minor collisions every year when we have the role to do much more serious matters. So there will be times, as I said, we're not going to leave the public for dead. We're going to be here. We're going to help them along the way. We're going to advise them. We're going to take statements, and we're going to prosecute offenders. All we're saying is that the initial response will be the insurance companies.
We have a caller. We want to take that caller in before we go to break. Good evening to you.
Mm-hmm. Good evening. My question is, what happens? You have a pretty comprehensive list of who should call the police and who should handle through insurance. Well, what happens when one of the callers is bicyclist, one of the persons involved with a motorist and the other cyclist, either motorized cycle or even a powered bicycle?
Randy?
I think it might be more for Inspector Inniss. So I mean, from the insurance company standpoint, we will deal with the incidents once both parties have insurance. Both companies will respond. But I think the issue is that some of those pedal cycles and other cycles don't actually have insurance cover. In that instance, if the pedal cycle or other cycle is the one that caused the accident, there's no insurance cover for that cyclist to recover from. So they unfortunately have to bear the brunt of it. But my understanding is once there's a pedestrian or in this case a pedal cyclist involved, the police will respond to those type of accidents. But I will leave it to Inspector Inniss to confirm.
Yes, we will respond to circumstances like that, and like you said, to find the bicyclist if he's still there. If he doesn't have the insurance, of course, we encourage the person who has damaged. Obviously, the civil matter, that side of it, you have to probably put him to court or something like that to settle that matter. If in our investigation we realize that one or both persons have committed offenses and there's a possibility of prosecution, that can happen. But generally, as you can see, Wendy, and most of the other callers, generally people are more concerned about compensation for injury or damage to property rather than prosecution of the offender.
Okay.
And yeah, and that's one of the things that we are saying. We will not leave you open-handed. We will prosecute who need to be prosecuted. But there will be times where we cannot prosecute everyone for simple accidents. We don't have the time to deal with that. We will not be attending those small, minor things.
All righty. Now, this one is for you, Mr. Graham. We now have a number of electric bicycles on the road. Should those have insurance cover, given that they're motorized, or is it not something yet that has been considered overall by you in the industry?
Yeah, so Wendy, I think the chief licensing officer, in her wisdom, did amend or propose amendments to the way the road traffic act will operate, so that those motorized cycles do require to have a registration with MTW, and if they have to be so registered with MTW, then they will require to have insurance as well. So I can't remember off the top of my head whether the policy is live or not, but I think they have stated that the motorized cycles will require a registration, and if they do, they will require insurance, and the sector stands ready to offer that cover.
Okay, what's your take on that, Mr. Lowe?
Well, again, I have heard about the move to make amendments to the act, and as Mr. Graham said, I'm not sure if it's live as yet, but as you said, if the bike or the bicycle or has a motor, then it should be insured, because then it's not a pedal cycle anymore, it's a motorcycle. And as somebody quipped to me that sometimes these, because of the motor and them, they move really quickly. You don't expect them to be traveling as fast as they are, so they move like a motorcycle.
Okay.
So then they should be treated as a motorcycle.
Before we go to the break, Mr. Graham, I want to find out what happens in the instance where the car hits, say, a house, runs off the road. What happens when the accident responders come? And I'm going to flash you back to an incident that happened within the St. Michael environs, where a driver ran into a house. Some person narrowly escaped injury, right? But the step was knocked off, the veranda was crashed through, and it went partly into one of the bedrooms. The driver of that car jumped out, ran, even leaving the slippers behind. Householder, not sure what's going to happen.
Well, let's deal with it from the perfect world, and then I'll take Roland's lead for when things don't go right. So from in the perfect world, that vehicle has, if that vehicle has insurance, your insurance policy will pay for the third party damage, right? That's why it's mandatory to have third party liability at a minimum. So if the car hit the house, the damage to the house and the repairs to the house will be settled by the car's insurance company, right? And that happens all the time. There's no particular issue with that. If the person obviously flees the scene, then we get into a circumstance of maybe they didn't have insurance, they didn't have proper credentials to drive, they're fleeing for some other reason. That's when we push the police to investigate the crime. And even under the new policy, where persons have a criminal activity at the scene of the accident, they don't have the driver's license, they don't have the insurance as required by the law, the police will still investigate that crime. So I still think in those cases the police will still investigate. But if the person had proper policy in place, their insurance company would pay for the house repairs on the third party liability part.
Okay, we're going to take our final break, and when we come back, we'll be looking to take some parting shots. Not sure if there are any more callers. If we can take one or two, we will, but the People's Business will be back in a moment. Welcome back. Now, our panel has decided to defer from their parting shots in the interest of the public because we still have a number of callers in our bank. Good evening to you.
Hi, good evening.
Go right ahead.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, panel. My question to you all is this. The insurance guy is speaking very nice, very decent about this, what happened and that, what happened. That is in a world whereas it's not really real. Hello?
We're listening.
Right. 7 years ago, I was involved in an accident with a motorcyclist. Whereas I was on the main road and the cyclist came across a no entry road, cross a pastor, and give me $11,000 in damage to my car. The police was called. The insurance came, pictures was taken, left, right, and center. It shows that I haven't even got to the top of the gap. I was almost to the top of the gap. About 10 feet before I get to the stop sign, he cut across the pasture and come down no entry road. I was told by the insurance company we are waiting on the police report. I got a special constable, not an officer, a special constable in uniform, which took a report and then told me he will have to give it to the station sergeant to verify. I waited on that police report. When I got that police report, I said, okay, good, the insurance called me. I went into the insurance, they look at the pictures and everything. They said, but you haven't even get on the main road. I said, exactly, that's what I'm saying. Lo and behold, the police report said I was wrong. Someone came down a road that they are not supposed to come down. Because the road you're not supposed to come down. They have a big and bold no entry signs. But yeah, I was wrong. I asked if there's any way I can appeal. I was told by my insurance that if the police say you're wrong, you're wrong.
Okay, Inspector, is this one you want to look to?
That's a sad state of affairs, caller. But yes, you have a right to appeal. If you have a police report and you paid for a report and received a report, and for some reason you want to query anything within that report, you have a right. You can write and ask for a review of the report, write to the Office of the Commissioner of Police and explain the circumstances. And I'm sure that you have a right to appeal for that particular report. In most cases, another person, a more senior person, would be asked to review the circumstances and to pass his findings on.
Okay, let's see if we can get this other caller in. Caller, if you can keep it as brief as possible so you can get your response before we run out of time.
Yes, good evening, panel. Apparently, a Zadar hit my car. I went long, and the police stopped me when he come back. He only floors of drinking alcohol and smoking. And up to now, I ain't hear anything from. I called the insurance. The insurance gave me all the runaround, and my car still damaged. I want to know about that.
What recourse does she have, gentlemen?
Well, it's hard to say from the insurance on just on the basis that Wendy, I don't know what the circumstances are with if the ZR made a claim into their insurance company or not. We will need to find this out. In the interest of time, what caller would ask is if you could call the JAB's office tomorrow and give your details. We will try to investigate both sides of it, but it's difficult to say what the status of the claim is because I'm not certain what's happening on the other side. But if you could call to the office tomorrow, we can investigate.
Okay, we have another caller. Or rather, I should say our final caller.
Hi, good evening.
Yes, just go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, I'm asking a question as quickly as we can. October will be 8 years since a guy ran into the back of me on Spring Garden. The police came and they did their official thing. And since then, I've contacted a lawyer. She says she's waiting on the police report. And I honestly, because I have moved, I cannot remember who the officer's name was that took the report. So what happens in a situation like that? Because as far as I understand, there are many other people who have had the same situation.
Okay. Can we have a response quickly from you, Inspector Inniss?
Well, sure. Any person who has been involved and the police officially responded to any scenes, and they're writing for an official report, well, they should have the circumstance. But even if they don't, once they can apply and say when the accident did occur, the date, the time, the place, the vehicles involved, and maybe the police officer, if they don't have the police officer, just the details of that, we will be sure to research it, because once it's been attended and reported officially, we should be able to find the facts as to where that file may be and what was done about it. So that caller can in fact give us a call. I think you can pass on my number to her that she can get, and I will do that research for her, assist her in that regard.
Okay, thank you so much for coming to her assistance. You may not be coming to her on the road, depending on the circumstances, because you're not responding to everything again. But
we've been on the road already, Wendy.
Yes.
Because we're not responding, that's the other part I want to say before we close off. It means that we have more time to be patrolling, to have effective patrols, to probably even prevent those accidents from occurring. Once the police officers have more time to be on the road, patrolling, doing the road policing duties that we would love to see.
Okay.
If we take away that 71%, we can spend more time educating the public and being on the road, so a lot of these collisions that are preventable and avoidable would not happen.
And you can co-opt Mr. Lowe to help you through his organization to get that word out. And I'm sure Randy, Mr. Graham, he'll be interested in doing it too. Well, gentlemen, this has been quite an interesting program. We still have people trying to call in, but unfortunately we're at the end. So we definitely will be looking to see if we can have a round two to look at this policy and try to get some more information to educate the general public out there about putting it into practice. September 15th, I believe, is the date, Mr. Inniss? Right, yes, Inspector Inniss says that's the date. So let's wrap up the people's business for tonight. We looked at the new road traffic investigation policy, a different response to accidents. I want to thank Randy Graham, the president of the General Insurance Association of Barbados, Inspector Rodney Inniss, the Police Communications and Public Affairs Officer, and Mr. Roland Lowe, president of the Barbados Road Safety Association. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, our viewers. Thank you, our callers, even more. This has been The People's Business. I'm Wendy Burke.